4. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Mr. Hussein. Welcome to meeting number 29 of the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage. I would ask all in-person participants to read the guidelines written on the updated cards on the table, measures in place to help prevent feedback incidents and protect the health and safety of all participants, including and especially our interpreters. You will notice there's a QR code which links to a short awareness video. Please wait until I recognize you by name before you speak. All comments should be addressed through the chair. Pursuant to the order of reference of February 10th, 2026, the committee is meeting to study Bill S-227, an act respecting Arab Heritage Month. Bill S-210 and subsequently we will deal with Bill S-210, an act respecting Ukrainian Heritage Month. I'd like to provide members of the committee with a few comments on how committees proceed with clause-by-clause consideration of a bill. As the name indicates, this is an examination of all the clauses in the order in which they appear in the bill. I'll call each clause successively, and each clause is subject to debate and a vote. If there are amendments to the clause in question, I'll recognize the member proposing it who may explain it. Since this is the first exercise for many new members, the chair will go slowly to allow all members to follow the proceedings properly. If during the process the committee decides not to vote on a clause, that clause can be put aside by the committee so we revisit it later in the process. Once every clause has been voted on, the committee will vote on the title and the bill itself, and an order to reprint the bill may be required if amendments are adopted, so that the House has a proper copy for use at report stage. I thank the members for their attention and wish everyone a productive clause-by-clause consideration of Bills S-227 and S-210. And we'll begin with Bill S-227. And we have with us today the Honourable Ahmed Hussein, MP, who is sponsoring this bill in the House of Commons. Sir, you have 5 minutes for opening statement, and then I'll turn to members. I think we'll just do one 6-minute round, and then we'll proceed with clause-by-clause consideration. So if a member wishes to use all 6 minutes for their party, that's fine. If you want to share time with another member, that's also fine. But I think 6 minutes is probably enough to get through this very short and uncontroversial bill. So we will begin, I think, right, with Mr. Hussein and your opening statement.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, honourable members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today to speak in support of Bill S-227, an act respecting Arab Heritage Month. I'm pleased to appear before you as the sponsor of this legislation in the House of Commons, following its adoption in the Senate, where it was championed with dedication and care by Senator Mohammed Al-Zaybak. This bill is straightforward in its drafting, but meaningful in its purpose. It seeks to formally designate the month of April as Arab Heritage Month. Members of the committee will recall that this initiative is not new to our Parliament. In fact, in the previous Parliament, the Honourable David McGuinty, Member of Parliament for Ottawa South, introduced Bill C-232, which was adopted unanimously by the House of Commons. It advanced to third reading in the Senate before unfortunately dying in the order paper following the dissolution of Parliament. Bill S-227 builds directly on that prior consensus and momentum. It reflects work that had already united members across party lines and across regions of this country. And Canadians have been Arab Canadians have been part of Canada's story for more than 140 years, from the earliest immigrants arriving from what was then known as Greater Syria in the late 19th century to the vibrant and diverse communities we see today in cities and towns from coast to coast to coast. Arab Canadians are making and have made and continue to make contributions in every aspect of Canadian life. They've built businesses and community organizations. They've served as healthcare workers, teachers, entrepreneurs, artists, academics, and public servants. They have strengthened neighborhoods and contributed immensely to our economy. Arab Canadians have enriched our cuisine, our literature, our music, our civic institutions, and our strength as a country. Designating April as Arab Heritage Month would provide Canadians with an annual opportunity to learn about these contributions, to reflect on them, but to also celebrate the role that Arab Canadians play in shaping our shared future. Recognition matters, Madam Chair. Visibility matters and belonging matters. Bill S227 is also measured and responsible. It does not appropriate funds. It does not create new regulatory burdens. It does not duplicate existing legislation. It is declaratory in nature, but its symbolic impact is quite significant. Canada already recognizes several heritage months that celebrate the histories and contributions of diverse communities. Arab Heritage Month would join that tradition, reinforcing the principles of the Canadian Multiculturalism Act and the spirit of inclusion that defines our country. And if I may, Madam Chair, I'd like to add a personal reflection. When I served as Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship, and later as Minister of Diversity and Inclusion, I had the privilege of engaging regularly with stakeholders from the Arab Canadian communities from coast to coast to coast, community leaders, youth advocates, cultural organizations, business associations. They all raised the importance of designating and establishing an official Arab Heritage Month. They spoke about how such recognition would help young Arab Canadians see themselves reflected in our national story. They spoke about the challenges of anti-Arab racism and misperceptions, and they spoke about how formal recognition by Parliament would send a clear message that Arab Canadians are not on the margins of our country, but that they are integral to Canada. Those conversations left a lasting impression on me. This bill responds directly to those voices. In conclusion, Madam Chair, Canada's strength lies in its ability to weave diverse experiences into a common fabric. Arab Heritage Month is not about separating communities. It is about integrating stories, acknowledging that the Arab Canadian experience is actually part of the larger Canadian experience. This bill offers Parliament the opportunity to reaffirm a simple but powerful message that every community belongs to our country and every contribution, past and present and future, counts. So I respectfully encourage the committee and my honourable colleagues to support Bill S227 and to advance it for timely message. Thank you. I look forward to your questions, of course. Thank you, merci, miigwech, and shukran.
Elegant and eloquent as always, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Abu Taif, welcome to Heritage Committee. I understand you'll be taking the 6 minutes for the Conservatives. Go ahead, you have the floor.
Thanks. Good morning, and Mr. Hussain, congratulations on S227, and thank you for putting this forward. I was one of the seconders of the first bill that was presented by Minister McGuinty in the last Parliament. I'm also one of over 1 million Canadians of Arab origin. Now, as a proud Canadian, I refuse to be shaped by the hyphen of term Arab Canadian. How do you foresee this bill celebrating Arab culture, but still preserving our national pride of Canadians?
Look, I mean, I think when you look at the history of Arab Canadians in Canada, when you look at the presence of Arab Canadians and the contributions that they have made and continue to make in many provinces, municipalities, right across this country, it is, I think, important to also follow what local communities have already done. So many provinces, municipalities, community organizations, as you said, have already recognized and designated Arab Heritage Month in various forms. But what's missing is a federal designation providing national coherence and permanence. So a formal recognition by Parliament ensures consistency across the country. It signals that we in the federal legislature recognize and reflect on and celebrate the contributions of Arab Canadians as part of Canada's official historical narrative. Recognition at the federal level carries symbolic and unifying weight that informal observances cannot. But I do share with you the belief that we are all Canadians, and but I also believe that recognizing the contributions of various communities to the larger national project doesn't take away from their belonging to Canada. In fact, it enhances it.
I guess one of the intention of this bill is to raise awareness about the Arab culture, about the history, about the community. What other benefits you believe that this bill will bring more to the culture, to the introduction, and to the awareness of the Arab community? I believe that when we put forward the Lebanese Heritage Month, that was an opportunity also to do the same thing, and I thought was fantastic idea, and we're thankful for the passing of this bill through the House and the Senate. So the question again, what other benefits you believe that this bill will bring to Canadian society?
I think the main one, in addition to the recognition piece, is education. I think whenever an opportunity is made available to Canadians to learn about each other and the history and the contributions that various communities have made and continue to make in Canada, I think that knowledge and that dissemination of that knowledge is a plus. It's an advantage. So the more that we can learn about each other, the more that we can reflect on the history of various communities and their journey to Canada, and the more that we can celebrate their successes and contributions, the better it is for our social cohesion, the better it is for our national unity and our ability to really not only live together but actually work together and make a stronger Canada. In my opinion, I see this as an opportunity for all other non-Arab Canadians to learn about this great community, this diverse community, that really is in many ways reflective of different journeys, from folks who arrived here in the 19th century to recent immigrants who are now proud Canadians, and everything in between. So the key takeaway is that the education piece will be enhanced by this bill and the recognition of this month as Arab Heritage Month, but also the social cohesion, which will come from the appreciation and knowledge. These recognitions enable Canadians to learn about each other and to appreciate each other more.
Final question. As in a multicultural society such as Canada, we do celebrate that a lot. How do you see this bill helping to explain some of the differences, if it's being seen by other communities? I mean, when I refuse to say there's others, we're all Canadians, but there's also that cultural differences because that's the nature of our country. How does this bill help to answer some of the unknown questions about the community or some of the misunderstanding of our culture and our history?
Precisely, you're absolutely right. It actually, again, gives us an opportunity to open the door to more awareness about the history and the contributions of Arab Canadians. When you designate a Heritage Month and it is disseminated across the country, as I said, it enhances the education piece, which reduces the ignorance and the misperceptions and the misconceptions about the community. The first thing that I think it will do is introduce people to the rich and diverse culture of Arab Canadians. It will introduce them to the contributions that Arab Canadians have made and continue to make to Canada by different waves of Arab Canadians immigrating to Canada. It will also, I think, introduce people to the various faiths and cultural backgrounds of Arab Canadians. Arab Canadians are very diverse. They come from different parts of the world, and they encompass a diversity that is very rich and dynamic. And I think this Heritage Month, I believe, will help introduce people to that complex and diverse heritage, dynamic heritage, which inevitably will reduce ignorance and misconceptions about the community.
Thank you. Mr. Al-Sood, you now have 6 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Hussain, for joining us today. I've said this before, and I will say it countless times more. I am the proud son of parents who never had a country of their own until they became Canadian. I am proudly of Palestinian origin, and that identity is a core part of my story. Of course, that story is not unique to me. In my community of Mississauga Centre, home to one of the largest Arab communities in Canada, I feel those contributions every single day. In small businesses that drive our local economy, in doctors and healthcare workers who care for our families, in educators shaping the next generation, in artists, innovators, and public servants who are helping define what Canada looks like today and what it will look like tomorrow. My parents came to this country at the age of 16, leaving behind their families, their sense of familiarity, and the lives they knew. They chose Canada. My father arrived as a refugee with no one but his older brother. No roadmap, no guarantees, just opportunity and the willingness to work for it. And they did. They worked, they studied, they supported family back home, they built small businesses, they built stability, and they built a life for themselves and for their families. But just as importantly, they made a conscious decision not to lose who they were in the process. Growing up in Montreal, I went to school in French. I watched TV in English, but at home, my parents would always say, "بالبيت بنحكي عربي." At home, we speak Arabic. No exceptions. Saturdays were for Arabic school, whether I liked it or not, and I'll admit that at the time, I did not. Today, I am nothing but grateful for it every single day, because what they were really doing was ensuring that we didn't have to choose between identities, that we could be fully Canadian and Arab at the same time. And that's a story you see across this country, whether it's first-generation newcomers or families like those I met in Edmonton last week, with roots going back several generations. There's a shared pride in being Canadian and a shared commitment to holding on to where you come from. That is not a contradiction. That is the Canadian mosaic at its best. Designating April as Arab Heritage Month is not just symbolic. It tells a community that their story, their contributions, and their presence in this country are seen and valued. It acknowledges the sacrifices that were made, the risks that were taken, the challenges that were overcome. It acknowledges the giants before me and the giants of whose shoulders I stand on today, and it matters to the next generation. Because this is about young Arab Canadians growing up and seeing themselves reflected not just as Canadians, but in the fullness of who they are, their language, their culture, their story, and their identity. It's about telling them that they don't have to compartmentalize who they are, but that they can carry all of it with pride. Because long after this bill is passed, there will be young people in communities like mine who feel a stronger sense of belonging because of it. And that intrinsically matters. Mr. Hussain, I want to sincerely thank you for your leadership in bringing this forward and for allowing me to rant a little bit. I know Senator Zeybek couldn't be with us today, but I'd also like to thank him for his tireless work. I know how much goes into this, and I know this will have a lasting impact. I know through your work you've heard countless stories, stories like my father's, like my family's, like so many others across this country. I'd like to give you the opportunity to share some of the stories that have impacted you most, acknowledging those people in this bill.
Thank you very much. I think that your remarks reflect the importance of initiatives like this. And when you spoke about the fact that Canada doesn't make you choose between obtaining new citizenship but abandoning your heritage, many countries do that, but this is a very special place. This is a country that allows you to join the larger Canadian family and adopt Canadian values while, keeping your rich culture and heritage. And I think that's one of the things that makes this country the best country in the world. It makes us stronger. It doesn't make us weaker. The diversity and the embrace of differences actually makes us stronger, in my opinion. My understanding of the importance of this initiative, and it's the reason why I joined Senator Al-Zeybek in sponsoring this bill in the House, is because of what you said, the impact that this will definitely have on young Arab Canadians. They will see themselves in the national fabric. They will see this formal recognition for what it is, which is an embrace by the rest of Canada for their community and for their story. and for their contributions that they're making in Canada. So this bill will allow for deeper public education about the community. It will allow for cultural appreciation while reinforcing national unity. This is about building bridges. This is about making sure that people's stories are heard. It's about making sure that we strengthen social cohesion by increasing education about each other and learning about each other's histories. I was so proud to learn that one of the amazing Canadian stories was discovering that in Edmonton, we had early Lebanese Canadian immigrants who connected with Ukrainian Canadians to use their church for worship. This is like in the 1800s. In Windsor, Ontario, just outside of Windsor, I went to Leamington and I discovered a very well-established Lebanese Canadian family, a married couple who had settled there and started a restaurant in the 1950s, and they're still going strong, and they're proud to be Arab Canadians. So you see these stories all the time. I remember Mr. Millman up in Sudbury. He came from Lebanon with virtually nothing, and today he runs 10 businesses and employs thousands of people. And he's creating jobs every day and prosperity for all of us, and so on and so forth. I could continue talking about those contributions, but I think the point is made. But this is about fostering understanding. It's about increasing education. It's about reflecting and celebrating contribution, and it's about harnessing this initiative to contribute to more inclusion and appreciation for our country and what it has done for all of us, including, of course, for Arab Canadians.
Thank you very much, Mr. Al-Soud. Lovely to hear a little bit more about your background. Very beautifully told. Monsieur Champoux, je vous donne la parole maintenant pour 6 minutes.
Mr. Champoux, 6 minutes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Hussein, for joining us this morning to present this bill. What I like about these ideas of putting in place Heritage Months is it allows us to hear stories. I really like stories. I like people's stories, individuals' stories, whether they're heroic or everyday stories. They're all individually important for those who live them and the families that share them. I heard Mr. Al-Soud talk about the history of his family, the arrival of his father in Canada. These are stories I like to hear. I also like to hear stories like that of the Ukrainians who arrived in different circumstances over the decades, the Irish, some of my origins, the Italians as well. Those months allow us, if they're well used, to hear stories and to better understand where our fellow citizens come from. Knowing where we come from allows us to better understand each other, better know each other, and to build society better. I find it interesting, especially to have an Arab Heritage Month, because in the minds of many Quebecers and Canadians, Arab heritage is closely tied to the Muslim religion. And we're aware that that can create some bad perceptions. But I know and I believe that Arab heritage is very rich and benefits by being known and shared. But I'd like to know, Mr. Hussein, how do you see the sharing of knowledge? How would Heritage Month, April, if everything goes well, I don't think we have too much suspense about this bill passing. How do you see this month of Arab Heritage Month being used to share everything that Canadians and Quebecers of Arab heritage have done to strengthen the fabric of our nation?
I believe that just like other heritage months that have been designated by our federal parliament, Arab Heritage Month, I believe, would serve the same purpose. It would be used by schools, local schools, community organizations, business associations, provincial governments and others to really focus our attention in April of every year as the month to reflect on and celebrate the contributions that Arab Canadians have made and continue to make to Canada. I think it also gives us an opportunity to use this month to show the diversity of the Arab Canadian community. As you said, there's a lot of confusion that is created that sort of makes for a lot of people the term Arab synonymous with Muslim. But we know that the Arab Canadian community has different faiths and different backgrounds, even different parts of the world. We have Arab Canadians who come from Northern Africa. We have Arab Canadians who come from the Middle East. You have other Arab Canadians who come from other parts of the world. So that diversity and the differences in terms of how Arab Canadians got here through different generations, through different waves of immigration, and how they settled here, the different parts of the country that they made home. All of that is incredibly interesting and fascinating. And I think Arab Heritage Month would allow more Canadians to discover that, as I have. Just by working on this bill, I was able to learn even more than what I already knew about the community. And it's quite fascinating, but it's also quite encouraging to see the level of entrepreneurship, the level of contributions that Arab Canadians have made and continue to make from every part of Canada, in every aspect of Canadian life. I think more people learning that would be a good thing. And this Arab Heritage Month designation focuses the mind on highlighting that. Just like the federal parliament passing Black History Month or Latin American Heritage Month and so on, it helps focus our attention to really take a moment every April of every year.
Donc vous allez être certainement, je pense qu'on peut tous être d'accord pour dire que
I think we can all agree to say that offering that window and letting people go past their first impression will concretely contribute to fighting some forms of racism or intolerance. We can already see that asset with a Heritage Month if it's well used once again.
Absolutely. I think everything that you said is true in terms of the more people know about each other, the less they're susceptible to ignorant perceptions about the other. And it also, of course, contributes to stronger social cohesion. As you're very well aware, the presence of Arab Canadians in Quebec has strengthened Quebec and contributed to its economic prosperity, but also strong civic pride in being a Quebecer. I've been spending a little bit more time in Quebec than normal because of French language training, and just by virtue of being in Quebec more, I've had the opportunity to get to know and interact with Arab Canadians from the Maghreb region, and their different journey of immigration to Canada that is different from, for example, the Lebanese community or the Syrian community. So it reminded me again about the diversity of Arab Canadians and the contributions that they've made and continue to make in Canada. And I believe this month, the designation of April as Arab Heritage Month is long overdue, and I believe that we should do everything that we can to support this bill.
merci beaucoup.
Okay, so that concludes our question rounds, unless somebody has something urgent to add. And we'll move forward with clause-by-clause consideration of this bill. Pursuant to Standing Order 75-1, consideration of Clause 1, the short title and of the preamble are postponed. The chair calls Clause 2. Shall Clause 2 carry? So, do we need a recorded vote? It looks like we have unanimous consent. Good. All right, carried. Shall the short title carry? Yes? Carried. Shall the title carry? Carried. Shall the bill carry? Oh, I'm sorry. I missed one. Shall the preamble carry? Yes. Carried. Shall the title carry? Carried. Shall the bill carry? Carried. Shall the chair report the bill to the House? Well done. Bravo. Members, we will take a short break now, I think. We do have another bill coming up at 9:15. We have Senator Kutcher joining us remotely, so I don't think we'll start that right away. We do have some discussions on our schedule to be had. Would members prefer to have that discussion in camera? Mr. Champoux?
J'en vois pas l'absolu.
I don't see an absolute necessity, but at the same time, if we need to discuss the importance of some points, if we need to go into detail on witnesses who have been proposed, maybe it would be preferable. Personally, I had a proposal to call for 2 additional meetings for the study, but if we need to discuss it more, it might be wise to go in camera.
Does anybody else have a discussion on our schedule that we can just have in public here? Go ahead, Mr. Miles.
I think I agree with Martin here. I think that having 2 more, no more than that, it's one of those, it could go on forever. So I think it is good to have a limit. 2 would be good because we have another study that's going to come up after that. And then if we need to get into the details of who those, there's discussion with witnesses, but maybe we don't have to do that if we can agree on the amount of réunions we're going to have. I usually don't search for English words, but there we go. It's a good sign. It's a good sign. Thank you.
Okay. The Conservatives would prefer to go in camera to have this discussion. We'll need 10 minutes. Mrs. Thomas will send you a link to the next meeting. We'll be briefly in camera, and we'll be back in public session for our next bill, the Ukrainian Heritage Month bill, at 9:15. So I will suspend for now. And then we the sponsor of this bill in the House of Commons. We are attempting to connect with Senator Stan Kutcher remotely, who is the Senate sponsor of this bill. But we'll get started with Mr. Baker, and then we'll check in to make sure we have a proper connection with Mr. Kutcher before we go any further. And each of the sponsors will have 5 minutes to present opening statements. So, Mr. Baker, the floor is yours. Oh, wait, 1 second. I forgot to mention at the top of this meeting that you may have noticed we don't have our clerks or our analysts are at the back of the room, Leanne and Jed, and we have with us today the legislative clerks Andrew and Michelle, who are here to help us with the more technical aspects of this process. All right. That said, Mr. Baker, the floor is yours for 5 minutes.
Madame la Présidente, merci beaucoup.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. Dear colleagues, thank you very much. I sincerely thank you for having me today at the Standing Committee on Canadian Heritage. I'm honored to be here to speak to Bill S-210, which, if adopted, would designate September as Ukrainian Heritage Month in Canada.
The first Ukrainian immigrants to Canada arrived here on September 7th, 1891. And since then, generation upon generation of Ukrainians have come to Canada, many of them fleeing oppression and seeking a better life. And they found that life here in Canada. Ukrainian Canadians have also helped to make Canada the great country that it is today. C'est pourquoi en 2011,
that is why, in 2011, the Ontario Legislature passed a bill supported unanimously by all parties to designate September 7th as Ukrainian Heritage Day. As president of the Ukrainian Canadian Congress of Ontario at the time, I was proud to be among those who drafted this bill and helped secure its passage.
c'est pourquoi
That is why I'm also proud to have introduced my own bill in the House of Commons during the 3 last parliaments to designate September of each year as Ukrainian Heritage Month. And I am proud to be the sponsor of this bill in the House of Commons.
For me, colleagues, there are 3 reasons to support this bill and to pass it now. The first is it's an opportunity to celebrate Ukrainian heritage, which we see demonstrated in our ridings, in our communities across this country every single day in various forms. But the significance of this bill reaches far beyond cultural recognition, in my view. It's not merely a symbolic gesture. It is a national acknowledgement of the people whose contributions have shaped Canada for almost 135 years. Since 1891, Canadians of Ukrainian descent have left a historic mark on our country, and their contributions span communities, all the communities in the House of Commons, and they touch our economic, political, cultural, and social life. And since 1891, Ukrainian Canadians have played an important role in making Canada the great country that it is today. So the second reason is that through this bill, I think Parliament is helping to recognize these contributions. And thirdly, since 1891, Ukrainian Canadians have come to Canada seeking a better life, and since 1891, Canada and Canadians have supported them. That's why, for example, Canada was the first Western country in the world to recognize Ukraine's independence in 1991. That is why Canada was among the first countries in the world to recognize that the Holodomor was a genocide. And that is why Canada has been a global leader in supporting the people of Ukraine as they defend themselves against Russia's brutal invasion today and for the last 4 years. So thirdly, through this bill, Parliament would recognize these contributions, what Canada has done and the contributions of Canadians in supporting Ukrainian Canadians and supporting Ukraine. I would also argue there's never been a more important time to pass this bill than now. For the last 4 years, Ukrainians have been defending themselves against Russia's brutal invasion, and Canada has been a global leader in supporting Ukraine in that fight. And I just want to take a minute to talk about this. I think there are 2 key reasons that we support the people of Ukraine. The first is because I believe it's the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. And the second reason is because it's the right thing for us. It's the right thing for Canada. Because I often say, you've probably heard me say this, that I think Ukraine's victory is vital to Canada's security. Because if Russia wins, it's not going to stop at Ukraine. And then NATO will be next. And I say this because Putin has told us so. I say this because Russia is sending Russian military drones over European military bases as we speak. Europe is preparing. Western European military leaders have told their citizens that they need to be ready for a land war with Russia in the next 5 years. So this is a real threat to NATO. And if that happens, then yes, Europeans, but also Canadians and Americans will be next in defending ourselves against Russian aggression. So in my view, we either pay a smaller price now to help Ukraine win, or we pay a much, much bigger price later. And that's why Canada has been a global leader in supporting Ukraine since 2022, with over $25 billion in support. That includes $8.5 billion in military support. We're the largest contributor of financially per capita in the world to Ukraine since 2022. But Ukraine is fighting on the front lines of the global struggle between democracy and tyranny. Their struggle is our struggle. So that's why I believe there's never been a more important time than now to pass this bill. Ce projet de loi rend hommage au
This bill honors the past, strengthens the present, and inspires the future.
month will offer a special opportunity for us to celebrate Ukrainian heritage, the role that Canada has played in supporting Ukrainian Canadians, and the contributions that Ukrainian Canadians have made to Canada. By passing Bill S-210, Parliament would be affirming that Ukrainian Canadians are integral to Canada, that their heritage deserves celebration, and that Canada stands with the Ukrainian people, not only in wartime, but for all time. So I hope all members of this committee will join me and join us in designating September of every year Ukrainian Heritage Month across Canada. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
5 minutes on the dot. I don't know how you managed that. Well done and well said, my friend. Do we have Senator Stan Kutcher online? Senator Kutcher, would you say a few words to make sure that we can hear you properly? And we can see you? We don't see you. Oh, no, we don't hear you. Stan, do you have at all? His mic, I see his microphone.
Oh,
Oh,
me
that's
now?
better.
All right, here we go. Thank you so much. Good.
And can you just say a few words for us, Senator, just to make sure our
Sure.
interpreters can hear you okay?
Sure, Chair. Thank you, everyone, for gathering today. You'll wonder why we're all here. Can you hear me, the interpreter, so that we can do this?
You are good, sir. You have the floor now for 5 minutes. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you all for getting together to study Bill S-210. Before I get to the heart of this simple bill that promotes our celebration and understanding of the heritage of a group heretofore federally unrecognized nation builders, Ukrainian Canadians, I would like to thank those who made today possible. First, I would like to thank you, the committee, studying this bill today. As you can see, I'm coming to you by Zoom from a hospital clinic where I'm receiving medical treatments. Some of you know that I will be stepping down from the Senate soon due to a medical condition that makes it very difficult for me to contribute effectively to the work of the chamber. I'm hopeful that should the committee move this bill to the House might be able to deal with it quickly. Second, I would like to thank Member of Parliament, Mr. Yvonne Baker, not only for his sponsoring of Bill 2S10, but for the work that he has been doing to support the Ukrainian Canadian community throughout his tenure as a Member of Parliament. As he said, Russia's illegal and genocidal war on Ukraine enters its 5th year. This bill is important to Ukrainians and Canadian in Canada and those fighting for survival in Ukraine. And why is that? Because it gives them hope. Hope that Canada will continue to support Ukraine. Hope that is necessary for them to cling to as they fight valiantly to preserve their sovereignty against an aggressor that is not only attacking them, but also the foundations of our international rule of law. An aggressor that is a member of the UN Security Council, no less. An aggressor that flouts every agreement it has made to respect the sovereignty and security of Ukraine. Here in Canada, it gives the Ukrainian Canadian diaspora, some 1.4 million strong, hope. Hope that the government of Canada and the people of Canada can better understand the heritage and culture of the Ukrainian Canadian community and the recognition of the contributions that members of that community historically and currently have made to the growth and development of our great country. As all of you know by now, I am sure, the story of Ukrainians who first came to Canada, those who answered Clifton Sifton's call to build the West, those men in sheepskin coats and women of strength and courage, whose hard work turned our then emerging Western provinces into the economic engines that they are today. People whose children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and so on, grew up to be farmers, carpenters, plumbers, lawyers, artists, musicians, doctors, hockey players, fishers, miners, teachers, bankers, clergy, soldiers and sailors, astronauts, parliamentarians, and even a Governor General of Canada. Some of those contributors sit amongst you in the House of Commons. Some are in the Senate. Indeed, it is the Ukrainian Senator Paul Yutzik who is widely considered to be the originator of the concept of multiculturalism that is the foundation of the complex weaving of the tapestry that has made Canada one of the best countries in the world to live in. In a 1964 speech entitled Canada, a Multicultural Nation, he foresaw the potential strength of our multicultural experiment, saying, quote, "If we succeed to evolve the pattern of unity in continuing diversity, this will serve as a precedent for the other states in the world. It will be Canada's contribution to the world." And that is what I think Bill S-210 is all about. It affirms our recognition that our country is a multicultural country, that our Canada was built by hands of many colors, that our voice is comprised of many tongues, and that the respect for each other begins with recognizing both our diversity and the common values that bind us together. Indeed, it is this spirit of multiculturalism that makes Canada so different from all the other countries on this continent. And this bill is a small recognition of that strength. It is through the creation of such recognition that we, as members of Parliament and senators, can confirm our own cultural roots, as we simultaneously celebrate and respect the same for all those who labor to create the Canada that we aspire to have, the Canada that demonstrates to the world that our multicultural experiment is indeed working. I hope that you can unanimously support this bill, and I appreciate your study of it. Thank you. Merci. Ijakuyu.
Thank you, Senator. Your passion for this bill is clear that you're, presenting from the hospital clinic where you are. It's noted here in this committee. We will now have one 6-minute round of questions before we turn to clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, starting with Mr. Abultaif. Please tell me how you pronounce your name, sir.
Abultaif.
Say it again.
Abultaif.
Abultaif. Okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks,
6
Chair.
minutes.
First, Senator Kushner, I thank you for basically bringing your remarks from the hospital. I hope you're feeling better, and I wish you all the best of health. Senator, you brought this in 2025, May 2025. Thanks for doing that, and thanks for MP Baker for sponsoring it into the House. That's also very important. 1.4 million Ukrainian of Ukrainian origin in Canada. We do celebrate their hardworking, their honesty, and their honorable approach to life in Canada, and how much this community have enriched our society. We feel it firsthand in Edmonton, in the prairies, of course, but Edmonton is home. Edmonton Northeast is home for a very large community that I do enjoy, I appreciate every day. And Canada is a steadfast supporter of Ukraine and of its own people. And the question to you, Mr. Baker, can you speak of the importance of celebrating Ukraine Heritage Month, especially as the people of Ukraine courageously fighting Vladimir Putin's illegal invasion on their lands?
Thank you, sir, and thank you very much for your kind words, and to all the members of the committee, if I may, for expediting the study of this bill. I know there's much for you to work on, and you've made this a priority, and I thank you for that. I think it's important, given for the last 4 years, Ukrainians have been defending themselves against Russia's brutal invasion, and I think that there are It is a critical opportunity to show another way for us to show our support for the people of Ukraine. I spoke during my remarks about what's at stake in this war, not only for Ukrainians, but for us. But when I speak to people in Ukraine, any amount of material support is appreciated, but also symbolic support is appreciated. And I think this would go a long way to us further showing our support for the people of Ukraine. And this is what, very often when governments act, no matter which party is in power at the time in Canada, that's one thing. That's the executive branch of government acting, and very often. But this is a unique opportunity for the Parliament of Canada to show its support across party lines, and I think that's a very important thing as well.
I do agree, of course, on what you said, and the unity with Ukrainian people is very important. Yes, this bill is symbolic, but it means way beyond that, because I believe the community more than ever need that support from all Canadian across the country. So that unity must help to bring some solidarity and to reflect on that solidarity with the Ukrainian people. Why this is very important to the community?
Well, I would say that there's a few things. I mean, I think that members of the Ukrainian Canadian community, my family is an example of that, but as you said, there's 1.4 million Ukrainian Canadians who've come to Canada for the last started coming in 1891. And many of them, or their parents, or their grandparents, or their great-grandparents lived through tremendous hardship. Very often because they wanted to speak the Ukrainian language when they lived in Ukraine, and they could not, or practice their religion, or have free speech, the things that we take for granted in Canada. And they faced many of them faced hardships at the hands of the Russian regime, whether it's the Soviet regime or Russia itself. So I think for them, there's a history of trying to defend Ukrainian heritage and culture, and not only for those who've come to Canada recently from Ukraine, but for generations of Ukrainian Canadians. Many Ukrainian Canadians, I'm in one of them, attended Saturday schools to learn the Ukrainian language and history and culture, because many felt for so many years until 1991, Ukraine was under the Soviet Union. People didn't think they'd see a free and independent Ukraine, and they thought we need to preserve the language here in Canada for future generations. My point is, to answer your question, sir, is that this is an opportunity to sort of honor the efforts that have been made by Ukrainian Canadians for generations in protecting that heritage, but also the work that they're doing now to support the people of Ukraine, whether that's financially or advocating with us to make sure that Canada does all it can to support the people of Ukraine. So it's an opportunity for across party lines for us to show our support for the community, for the fact that they are continuing to support the Ukrainian people in this fight.
Outside Edmonton, there's a Ukrainian village. And I believe every Edmontonian have visited the Ukrainian village and enjoy the culture, the dance, the product, the community. And if you own a small business anywhere in northern Alberta or southern Alberta, you must be running a business inside a large Ukrainian community, sometimes the whole village, like Two Hills, for example, Three Hills, and others. And I know many of my Lebanese fellows, they own those businesses or restaurants in these small towns, and they tell you the best stories about how these communities are enjoying working with each other and helping each other, and how welcoming the community is. So that's also bring us to the unity of Canadian society when it comes to the Ukrainian cause. So I'd like you to, for the last word, to emphasize on this point one more time.
Yes, absolutely. No, I think that look, I think this is passing this bill with unanimous support in the House of Commons, in this committee, but in this House of Commons, would be an opportunity for MPs of all parties to show that we stand with the Ukrainian Canadian community, and that we support the efforts that they've made to preserve their heritage for so many generations, that we honor their contributions to Canada, that we celebrate what Canadians have done to support the Ukrainian Canadian community. And that we'll continue to support them in the years to come here in Canada, but also in their support for the people of Ukraine, who are not only fighting for themselves, but fighting for us all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Miles. You have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you very much. First off, I do want to commend MP Baker, Senator Kutcher. Great to see you, another East Coaster. I really appreciate the work that you've done. I lived in Halifax for many years. I know you've been a real advocate for mental health and many other important issues in Canada. So thank you so much for all your work and representing the East Coast so well. This is a great bill. I'm so happy that you're both here. One of the great joys of traveling around Canada in depth is that you get to learn about different immigration patterns in the country. You see where different people have ended up over time, historically. And one of the great pleasures of touring through the prairies was learning about Ukrainian culture. In small Saskatchewan towns outside of Edmonton and Alberta, all over the prairies. And it added so much to my experience of traveling through the prairies and discovering these pockets of culture that were so strong and so unique, and again, make our country even greater. And I think this recent war in Ukraine has been a real moment of solidarity for Canadians. It's brought a lot of people together, understanding the severity of this struggle. My Uncle Bernie, in retirement, as I've mentioned to you, MP Baker, out of nowhere felt a real compassion for the Ukrainian people and now spends half his year volunteering in the Ukraine with children that have been displaced towards the western part of the country. And his connection to the people of Ukraine and their struggle has been an incredible sign of compassion and empathy in our family, and just really has brought a lot of attention to it. So I think there is, as you said, a real connection between Canadians and Ukrainians, both historically and in the present day. That is remarkable. I guess I wanted to salute you on the work, but also just maybe talk about how a bill can help us understand the struggle better, both historically and in the present day. Yeah. We'll start with, actually, you know what? Maybe we'll start with Senator Kutcher, if that's okay, and then we'll go to MP Baker. Thank you.
We lost your audio again, Senator. Oh, you're muted.
Great. There we go. We okay, Chair?
Yes, you're good to go, sir.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that question and for your kind words. And thank your relative for his service. Look, one of the things about celebrating one person's culture is that you acknowledge how important it is to celebrate every person's culture. And that is an incredible thing about Canada. And as you said, when you traveled through the West, you were able to get in touch with Ukrainian culture. It enriched who you were. And the same for me. When I travel through parts of this incredible country and see other cultures, it enriches me as a person. And the previous member of parliament talked about Lebanon. And I had the opportunity to be in Beirut for a number of times soon after the hostilities ended and reconstruction was beginning, working on some mental health projects. And I know how important it was for the people of Lebanon to feel that the world knew their struggle. And the same thing for the people of Ukraine. And as MP Baker said, this is a symbolic piece of legislation, but it is so important. Every morning when I wake up, I check my WhatsApp to see if my family in Kyiv and Lviv have survived the night. For them, and for their friends, and for the parliamentarians in Ukraine, passing this bill is a symbolic gesture, as I said, of hope. And without hope, no society can flourish. So thank you for your kind words, and thank you for your question.
Thank you.
I'm happy to add to that briefly if you'd like. I will just say that I think that you mentioned, was it your uncle Bernie? Did I get that right? Yeah, you mentioned your uncle Bernie to me before. So first of all, please thank him. What he's doing is extraordinary, and there are quite a number of Canadians who've chosen to volunteer in various ways in supporting the people of Ukraine. Some of them are in Ukraine. Some of them are here volunteering to support the people. Some of them have taken Ukrainians who've come to Canada and needed help and housed them in their homes and in our communities. So Canadians have really risen to the occasion on this, not just parliamentarians, but everyday folks, and which is incredible. I think this bill helps us to show unity around, is an opportunity to show unity around our support for the Ukrainian Canadian community. I think it's what the senator said. It's an opportunity to say we celebrate this culture, but by extension, because we celebrate this culture, we value every culture that makes up Canada. And I think in the context of what's happening in Ukraine, that touches the Ukrainian people, but touches us so deeply, our security, our future as democratic nations, I think it's an opportunity to say we stand with Ukraine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Monsieur Champoux, vous avez la parole. 6 minutes.
6 minutes, Mr. Champoux. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to start by offering my respect to Senator Kutcher, who's joining us from a clinic this morning. I think that shows his determination to see this bill pass, and I think it deserves our admiration. Senator, you have all of my respect. I arrived in 2019 as an MP, and when I arrived, I discovered that there were associations, groups of parliamentary friendship groups that allow us to discover many things about different cultures, different countries that Canada has ties with, of all sorts of types. I was very pleased to be sent to fill the role of the Bloc Québécois seat on the Canada-Ukraine group, and that's where I met MP Baker, who chairs it, so I have the honor of being his vice chair now. But I especially discovered the scope of this friendship group with the brutal invasion by Russia in Ukraine. I discovered through this friendship group that there is an extremely resilient, courageous community, very committed and engaged. We talked about different regions of Canada where there was immigration in different shapes. And in Quebec, there are a number of people with a Ukrainian background, but not as much as in other places, as Mr. Aboultaïf was saying earlier. So to discover the strength of this community in the fabric of Canada was a revelation to me. Very nice to become aware of this and to come into contact with representatives from this community through the Parliamentary Friendship Group, but also with the Ukrainian Canadian Congress and the people who came to meet with us from Ukraine, members of Parliament, among others, who came to meet with us in the context of the Russian invasion. It was very interesting, always very topical, and it always increased my feeling of belonging and commitment towards this group. It's a friendship group, but it's much more than a friendship group at this stage. Ivan, I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about Ukrainian Heritage Month in the current context. What will it add? What will it provide to Canadians of Ukrainian background? What will it provide to them to have a Ukrainian Heritage Month in Canada? Thank you very much, Mr. Champoux. First, I'd like to thank you for your work on the friendship group. I know there are many members. A few of you, maybe all of you, are members of the friendship group. But thank you for your leadership, Mr. Champoux, on the executive. I appreciate it. Regarding your question, first, It's worth remembering I tabled a similar bill in previous parliaments. It was before the large-scale 2022 invasion that I tabled this bill the first time. So in my view, it's worth adopting this bill even if there hadn't been war in Ukraine. For the reasons I've said, a chance to celebrate Ukrainian culture, a chance to celebrate the contributions of the community in Canada, and what Canada has done to support Ukrainian Canadians, especially when they arrive. They're vulnerable and they need help, and Canadians are there for them. But your question was about the importance now, given the war. And I think it's an opportunity to first demonstrate that we are aware of the significance of what's happening in Ukraine now. The work of the Ukrainian Canadian community, they're working very hard with many Canadians. We heard about Bernie. There's many examples like Bernie in Canada. They're not Ukrainian in background, but they're still working hard. We are with them. And we understand that the war in Ukraine is something that affects us all. Well, the war means that we've become more curious and we've welcomed Ukrainians to Quebec in my riding of Drummond, in Drummondville especially. We have a number of Ukrainians who've arrived in this context. That ease that these people have had integrating, to have a month for Ukrainian heritage, would it, as you've said, have us direct our attention to something positive? One of the things I've discovered that I only knew a little bit about Ukraine, what I discovered more in depth with Vyshyvenka Day, the artisanal talent of Ukrainians, the importance of that clothing, which is much more than clothing. There's Ukrainian cuisine. We could talk about food. There are many things that we will, thanks to Ukrainian Heritage Month, we will be able to learn and focus on things that are not just about the war. I'd like to hear you speak to that, because I think that's a very positive element. Thank you very much. I know there isn't much time left, but I would simply say there were a number of questions about the importance of this bill given the war. But I like what you've just said. I think it's an opportunity to celebrate. Honestly, if we want Ukraine to win the war, we need to take concrete action to support Ukrainians. This bill won't change that. If we want to help Ukrainians, we need to vote for aid for Ukraine. But it's also important to celebrate the contributions of Canadians, in this case, Ukrainian Canadians, because they've contributed to our country, to all provinces, and it's important to celebrate that.
Thank you. And I would acknowledge MP Baker, all the years and effort that you have put in, and we're very happy to be able to deal with this piece of legislation today and get it passed in the House of Commons, so it actually happened. Moving on, we will go to clause-by-clause consideration. Pursuant to Standing Order 75-1, consideration of Clause 1, the short title and of the preamble are postponed. The Chair calls Clause 2. Shall Clause 2 carry? Carried. Shall the short title carry? Carried. Shall the preamble carry? Carried. Shall the title carry? Carried. Shall the bill carry? Carried. Shall the Chair report the bill to the House? Carried. Bravo. Congratulations, colleagues. Bill is done. Our intention is to present these two bills to the House upon our return after our break for Easter for 2 weeks. So that will happen as soon as possible. And once again, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time and your attention and all of your hard work on this issue. Do members have anything else to raise? Then I adjourn this meeting.